Okay, good morning again, and welcome back to Tanya Overview. Officially, it's our fourth lesson on Tanya Overview. However, in the PDF, we're going to use what says lesson 3. It doesn't really matter. The numbers don't really matter. Where are we at? We introduced Tanya, the book of Tanya, introduced the different definitions of that we all have not one soul, but rather two souls. We have a godly soul and an animal soul, or it's very easy said, a selfish soul that drives the ego, and the selfless soul, which is godly, which is an actual part of Hashem that exists in each of us. And that's why there's a battle. Because there are three types of people, three categories of people. Either you're a tzaddik, which is somebody who has completely eradicated their animal soul. They have no ego at all, which is not the job. It's not something we can achieve to become, because that is purely a gift God gives to very, very few individuals. Then you have somebody who's a Rasha, who's in the other spectrum, where not that he has eradicated the godly soul, but that the animal soul is in control, is in full control, not only on his inner faculties. As we remember, we learned that there are the inner powers, which are divided in the 3 intellect and the 7 emotions, and then there is the 3 garments of the soul, how we express. Because I can have the power to think, that is the inner faculty of intellect, but the actual thought or speech and action, that is the garment. And we learned that it is impossible or a very high order to focus on trying to change your inner faculties. But rather, the point here in Tanya is we need to work to control our garments, how we express it, our behavior. How do we control them? Because there's another important teaching, that mind controls the heart. That we have a mind. Our mind has the ability to control how we feel. So even if I have an anger problem or I have a anxiety problem, these are inner feelings. My mind has the ability to control, not to express it in thought, speech, or action. And this is the work we call being kind of in the middle. In the middle means you're pulled in 2 directions. You pull between your godly soul and your animal soul. And it's a constant battle. Who is in control? And when we say control, it's not in the inner, but rather on the outer. Who's on the outer? It's like who's sitting in the driver's seat, right? You still have the animal soul is coming along for the ride, and still going to give you impulses, and still going to give you, all those negative attributes and negative ideas, or your ego, whatever it's still coming along for the ride. But if you got this, or if you put the God soul on the steering wheel, meaning how it's expressed, that is the work of, as Tanya calls it, of the average human being, in Hebrew called the Beinoni, right? So you pendle back and forth. So if the animal soul is in control, and you know those moments where your animal soul comes in full control, right? Mm-hmm. Then in a sense, in that moment, you are now in a Russia mode, and you want to always try to go back into the Beinoni mode. But remember, don't think about tzaddik, because people sometimes have this expectation of being a tzaddik or want to be a tzaddik and never get there, and that pulls them down because false expectations. That was a quick recap. We also introduced the ideas of energies, of holy energy called kedusha. Then we talked about unholy and non-holy, was called klipa.
Okay.
And if you missed it, you got to go back to the recording. But we are going to move on a bit today as we introduced the concept, as Tanya says, okay, all nice and good. We asked last week a question. Tanya asked the question, if it's all about mind control, right? Or once we gave a class on, I think Rabbi Wolf came down and he gave a class. He called it the Kabbalah of Mind Yoga, right? So mind control. If it's all about mind control, always controlling, how much can you actually? How far can that take you? If you're always controlling yourself, and you never really get to the inside, it's always outside control over the inside, eventually that doesn't really work. We know that doesn't work because it's see how people do diets and other stuff. They try to be in control, but it can take us that far. So isn't there a better approach than just saying mind control? Isn't there a better approach? And the Alter Rebbe says yes. And he starts with a famous line in the Torah about Moshe on his last day on earth. He gives his last sermon to the Jewish people. And he tells the Jewish people that, and it's referring to Jewish people in their relationship with Hashem. You know, we are talking sometimes about a lot of psychology, right? Mm-hmm. Emotions, intellect. Mm-hmm. And we think, okay, the rabbi is giving a psychology class or is this a Kabbalah class? Which one is this, right? So remember that psychology, the psychology of how we function is really a product of how the psychology of the soul functions, as we learn in class. So if we understand the soul, we understand how we function and we understand how we can have more productive life. All these tools are obviously very helpful in mind control or, you know, my behavior, how I behave to others, how I behave to my spouse, how I eat, how I'm healthy. This is very mundane or not necessarily a spiritual activity. However, and this is really important, we need to always ground ourselves in the spiritual interaction, understanding the spiritual connection we have with Hashem and how we develop that on a day-to-day basis, because that allows us to have all the other activities also in line properly. As we learned, that every mundane activity can either be a unholy activity or a holy activity. So really everything is rooted in the soul, in the spiritual aspect. And when we talk about soul and neshama, we're talking about our relationship to Hashem. So today's class, I want to introduce the concept of how are we bringing all these tools in our relationship with Hashem? What is this relationship all about? How do we nurture this relationship? Why is that so critical? Is it something that I do once in a while, when I go to synagogue, or is it something that should and must be ongoing on a day-to-day time? So the verse, I'm going to pull up the verse quick on the screen from the PowerPoint, because I think we did it last week. The verse is in the Torah. On Zoom, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to click it quickly.
That's an overview, yeah.
I'm going to that verse. We're not doing really the PowerPoint much. I'm just pulling up that verse. Hold on. And that is right over here. All right. This is the verse. The verse says, Moshe tells the Jewish people for this thing, which thing? The thing he's referring to, Moshe is telling the Jewish people to do the mitzvahs, to be connected to Hashem. To be connected to Hashem is a very near to you, in your mouth, in your heart to do it. And the question is really, at first glance, this seems contrary to our experience, but it's not a very near thing to change one's heart from worldly desires to sincere love of God. So we know in the Shema, we say we have a mitzvah to love Hashem, ve'ohavta. We have to love Hashem. Love, for example, is one of the 613 mitzvahs, to love Hashem. Then we have the second commandment, which is to fear Hashem. Or the better word is not fear, but to stand in awe of Hashem. So let me ask you a question. There are 630 mitzvahs that Moshe is referring to, that this thing is very near to you. The mitzvahs, the commandments, come in different categories. And generally, you have commandments that you do with your hands, with action, like tzedakah, right? Or lighting candles. Then you have mitzvahs that you do with your mouth, speech, like prayer, right? Or study or learning Torah, that has to actually be in speech. Making a blessing. Or the negative, speaking gossip, for example, is a prohibition, one of the 613 prohibitions that we do with our speech. So then you have And then we have mitzvahs that are in thoughts, that we do it via thoughts, which is mainly the mitzvah of loving and fearing God, because love and fear God is a combination of a intellect and an emotion. So if I give tzedakah, for example, it's very easy. It's do I need to have emotions or intention? Who's chatting here? Sorry, let me close it. There's some background. Is this me or? If I'm asking you to light the Shabbos candles, right? You can say, I don't understand it. I don't know it. I don't feel for it. Yet I'll tell you, do it anyways, right? Do it anyways. And if you do it, you fulfilled the obligation, the mitzvah of lighting candles. So that's easy, right? That you can do it without much preparation or meditation. Now when we go to speech, right? So we have to pray, we have to make a blessing. So obviously, blessing and prayer must be done with kavanah, with intention. So that is more, it takes a little bit more work. Okay, but it's not, I can say, just, this is the translation. Blessed are you, Lord, King of the universe, who commanded us to light the Shabbos candles. Okay, not so hard. I can learn it, I can do it, and I get what Moshe is telling us, right? That this thing is near for you. However, the most difficult mitzvah is mitzvahs that require intellect and emotions, right? Mostly the mitzvah of loving God. The two most difficult mitzvahs, perhaps, is loving God and loving your fellow Jew. Right? Loving your fellow Jew, right, is the mitzvah. Is a very difficult mitzvah to fulfill. Because it doesn't say to love your friend. It says to love your fellow, even a stranger, you have to love you. And loving God is easy when things go well. It's easy to love God when things go well, right? When you see God's interaction. But if you don't see God, if He's right, you don't see God. And standing in awe of God is a very deep emotion. So the question is, and also when it comes to commandment, the word commandment is I command you to do something, right? So if your mother tells you take out the garbage, that's a commandment, right? No matter what, you take out the garbage. If you understand, you don't understand. I can command you to do something, but how can I command you to love something? I can't command you to love this piece of art, right? Because I don't have any attraction to this piece of art, right? Love is an emotion. So how can I cannot command you. So how does Moshe say, at first glance, seems contrary to our experience, but it's not very near thing to change one's heart from worldly desires to a sincere love of God. However, the clause that you may do it qualifies that this refers merely to a love which is sufficient to lead to fulfillment of the commandment. So what does that mean? So that we started last week, trying to explain this very important commandment or idea that we are very close to God to fulfill the commandments, even the commandments of love and emotions. How do we do that? And this will help us also understand how do we deal with our inner emotions. So now we need to deal with our inner emotions. Because what was the questions originally? The question which we asked is it all about mind control, or is it something that is more, that can help me to actually change on the inside? And the Alter Rebbe explains in the chapters 15 and 20 on, we're going to read some of the text, that yes, there is important to learn that there is a way to change, or more better the word it will be to upgrade or refine or to extract emotions within us. How do we do that? And he says there's a long way, there's a short way. Remember last week, the long way, the short way. So the example they give here on the PowerPoint, when I'm going to show it, is a sports team, right? Sports team. So you're moving from up north, from Massachusetts, Chicago, from the west. You move to Florida. You move to Venice, Florida, right? You have always been a Chicago what's the team? Bear, the clubs, the Cubs fan, right?
Mhm.
Now you come to town and now you now come to town and you never had any affinity for sports, right? You must have come from Russia, you come to America, Russia only had soccer and war, right? In America, we have sports, baseball and football. Okay, I'm a good example because I grew up in Europe. I love soccer. I still don't get the whole football and baseball game. I don't know why people are so upset. Soccer is the king of sports, right? Okay, right? Agree. Now,
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Actually, the Chicago soccer team just got a good Swiss player. All right. Now, what's the deal? So, but I want to get involved in sports here in America. So I have two ways to get involved. One way is I start to study the sport, right? I study the sport. I start reading and watching and understanding how the sport works and statistics and all that. I'm basically studying of the sports. What happens? Will I get a excitement for the sport? Possible, right?
Yeah.
If I study it, I very much will probably get excited for the sport. Huh? Maybe, maybe not, right?
Yeah.
So, because everyone around me is excited about the sport, and I also want to learn about the sport. But then I come and I meet my neighbor, so I learn all about the Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, right? Okay, so I'm getting excited because now I deeply understand how football works, and everyone around me is so excited about the Tampa Bay. I'm like, why are you so excited? He says, what do you mean? It's a home team. We're in Tampa Bay. It's our home team. Now you're going to share. Can you tell me the stats of 1986 of the game? You ask your neighbor who's like passionate with the flags, you know, and they says, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you really explain me about exactly the pressure of the football and that? I have no idea. So why are you so excited? So what it means, a home team. So what's turning out is there's two types of people in sports. This is an analogy. One who study the sports and one who is excited because what do you mean? It's a home team. We're part of it, right? So which one are you? Ideally, it's not a contradiction. You can be both, right? So who has a deeper understanding of the sport? The one who studied. Who's perhaps more passionate about the sport? The one who's just excited because it's their home team, right? Everyone else is excited. So here comes the Alter Rebbe. Didn't bring the sports analogy, but says also in our relationship with Hashem, with God, there's two paths how we can actually become more excited emotionally on the inner powers about God. Remember, you have an animal soul, but you also have a godly soul, right? So number one is what's called in Hebrew hisbonenut. And those who came to the JLI meditation course know exactly what that word means. No? You remember what it means? What does it mean? We go back on Zoom here. Hisbonenut means meditation, but contemplative meditation, cognitive meditation. Meditations we introduce in the class, there are different forms of Jewish meditations, mainly three of them. One is called hisbodedut, which means to get away from all the noise, to kind of close all the negativity in my brain, move away from it, and just zero focus on godliness, on spirituality. Hisbonenus is not to close the noise, but to try to contemplate within the noise. Which right now sounds so important, the difference, but the idea is using my brain, my seichel, to study and learn deep and go deeper, dig deep in a specific concept, specific idea. So just like in the sports, the more I learn about it, the deeper I will become attached. If I learn about godliness, if I learn about what God is, or more important, what God is not, and I incorporate this in my meditations, which, by the way, we do so in our prayers, like Moda'ani and Shema Yisrael, that we're going to see soon, then I will have, my love for God will be developed. However, takes much more time. Like in the study of the sports, right? It takes much more time to study sports and just get excited because everyone else is excited. That's the long way, but it's an effective way. So we're talking about his bonus cognitive meditations, a learning and studying and meditating and contemplating on the greatness of God, and that's why majority of our prayers, when we look in our siddur, open our prayer book, a lot of people get confused. If you never learned how to pray, they're like turned off. Why is the prayer all about God and the greatness of God and His universe, right? I came to synagogue to get a quick fix, right? To get a little bit inspired, to hear a good sermon, to hear a good joke in the sermon, a schnapps, right? And also have needs, right? I need health, I need livelihood. So, but when you open up the prayer book, it starts with Moda Ani. I'm grateful, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Okay, I can say thank you. But then the whole introduction to the prayer on Shabbos, you come like almost an hour. We're reading about Psalms, about the universe and birds and animals and winds and angels. What's the whole point? Those are all tools to contemplate on the greatness of the universe, of God in the universe, as God being the creator, that leads me to love God deeper. That comes to me. And that's where we get to the Shema Yisrael. Why is Shema Yisrael such a big deal? Why is that such a powerful prayer? Before I get to Shema, we're going to get back. I want you now to read, we're going to read text 1 to 3 in the PDF. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Trying to share the PDF, and where is it? Here it is. Okay, perfect. Now let's see if we can bring you guys back here. Okay, do you see the PDF on screen? Class on Zoom?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So we're going to do text 1. Text 1, the important principle regarding the divine service of the Beni. Page, I don't know what page is it? 47?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. This is out of chapter 16 of Tanya. So he says the important principle regarding the divine service of the Beni is to govern and rule the animal nature by intellectually contemplating the greatness of the infinite, so as to create, through understanding, a spirit of knowledge and awe of God in his mind, which will cause him to turn away from evil. And the love of God in his heart will cause him to cleave to him by fulfilling the precepts of the Torah. So again, it's not just about love and awe of God that I'm trying to fulfill the mitzvah, but as important in this process, if I can get my godly soul more on fire, what happens? It's no longer just to control my emotions, but I can create that my emotions, my inner emotions, will become much more stronger in passionate about love and awe of Hashem. And as a result, my animal soul gets moved to the side, right? So now we're talking about inner refinement, basically. How? Through contemplation. And we're going to go through this idea of what does that even mean, knowledge of God? How can we understand God? We're also going to try to understand what does love God, what does love of God in heart mean? What is the idea of mitzvah? And we're going to go through that step by step. Let me go to the next text, text 2. So, furthermore, one must know an additional important principle in the Beni service of God. And the title here is Passion versus Appreciation. It's important because remember, the other pitfall is that you're going to start meditation and it takes work. Meditation is work. It's not simple, but you're going to work on it. You're going to get a feeling and appreciation for it, but the passion is passion is not necessarily going to kick in. You want to have passion. It's about love, right? In a relationship, love is ideal when it's passion, right? Passionate love. Just dormant love is not really ideal. That's kind of in a marriage as well. You want to have passion, but you're doing things over and over, and the passion is lacking. Maybe you get it a little bit from time to time, a passion for God, but on a day-to-day, I can now learn God, appreciate God, but passion. Remember, Tanya says, the tzaddik. A tzaddik will have passion for God. A beni, as much as you're going to learn about God, and you can start to develop a more love for God, and it's more of an appreciation because your animal soul is still fighting you. And this is the key. The more the godly soul will become enlarged, so to speak, the more you're going to develop your godly soul. You think that animal soul goes away? The animal soul also becomes bigger. Because what's the job of the animal soul? Is to challenge the godly soul. So the more spiritual you become, your animal soul also gets bigger. Bigger, I mean, it will fight back stronger in a sense. So you can ask, so why bother, right? Why bother? But that concept will help you in the journey not to fall down, not feel like, oh, I'm a fraud, right? I'm meditating now every day, 20 minutes a day. I am doing the mitzvah. I feel much more connected to God. So why is my animal soul so much stronger? Maybe I'm not doing it right. So he says, no, your animal soul comes along for the ride. Let's read in text 2. Furthermore, one must know an additional important principle in the Beni's service of God, even if one's intellect and understanding are incapable of producing a revealed love of God in his heart, as long as he comprehends the greatness of the infinite. This is completely acceptable, but it is this appreciation that leads him to engage in Torah and mitzvahs. So as long as, remember, we want to get our garments always to be in the right place, right? So Torah mitzvahs is really a garment, it's the expression. But I don't want to always be in mind control games. I want to also bring my inner emotion, and that's the idea of this meditation, of contemplating meditation about the greatness of Hashem. Clear? Yep. All right. Let's do one more text and I'll take questions. Excellent. And that's why he says, it's a little bit blurry here, to arouse a love which remains hidden. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. To arouse a love which remains hidden in the heart is very easy and very near to every person who has a brain, for his mind is under his control. I want to stop here for a moment. What does it mean to arouse a love which remains hidden in the heart? Which love is hidden in the heart? Anyone? Huh? Yeah, but which love? Love for what? Love for Hashem is hidden. Why is it hidden?
But you don't know you have it.
Huh?
You don't know you have it.
Well,
It depends on the environment you are in.
So there's two things. There is creating a love, and there is revealing something that is hidden.
Because you were born with
Huh? Oh, exactly. Here comes Tanya, says, don't feel you need to climb, right, the Himalayas. You're born with a love for God because you have a godly soul, you have an neshama. But it's very hidden, it's dormant. You need to use meditation to arouse it. So that's why Moshe says in his last speech, Moshe says to the Jewish people, this is very close to you. When he says close, he's saying it's close because you don't have to get it. You don't have to go to heaven to grab it. It's inside of you. And number two, it's accessible to you. You can have something, but who says it's accessible? It's accessible. How is it accessible? Number one, the long way, through meditation, cognitive meditation. to really, really learn more about who you are and what you have, is will develop a stronger love for Hashem. So again, let's read the text for you. To rouse a love which means hidden in the heart is very easy and very near to every person who has a brain. Who has a brain, right? That's a little, you gotta have a brain. But his mind is under his control, even if his heart is not, and he can meditate with it as he pleases on any subject. Thus, if he uses this to contemplate the greatness of the Almighty, he will inevitably generate in his mind at least a love of God and cleave to him for this performance of his commandments and the study of his Torah. All right. This is the long way. So what is the short way? What is the short way? And by the way, it's not one way over the other. We need to incorporate both ways. Right? It's not like if I'm driving to Miami, which way do I go? Is a long way and short way. I want to try to incorporate both ways simultaneously, because at times you need to have both aspects, because both bring you to success. What's the short way? So the short way, I already gave it in the sports analogy, right? Forget about studying the sports. Just get excited. Why? Because it's part of us. I'm part of the home team. I'm in Tampa Bay, right? So I'm most excited. They're winning, and I want them to win. So he says same thing is that in Hashem created us not just with a love for Hashem that I can develop and bring and make it develop much more through intellect, but let's read over here in text 4, the short way. Even for the person who has only limited understanding of God's greatness and does not have sufficient emotional capacity to generate through contemplation and understanding of the awe and love he should feel for God, is still a very near thing for him to guard and to practice all the commandments of the Torah as well as the study of Torah. By accessing the hidden love already present in the heart of all Jews, bequeathed to us from our patriarchs. Basically, he's saying as follows. What is he saying? There's a difference, two types of love that exist within us, love for God. One is a love that we develop, the one that is in our DNA. The one that's in DNA is not a love that I need to like take from out of somewhere that's deep hidden. In other words, the difference I would say like this: the love that we have for God by nature, that we're born with, is very deep inside of us. And my job is to bring it out and to develop it and to expand it. That's the long way, through meditation. There's another form of love, and that's the love that's in our DNA. You know what that means? I'll give you an example. Take a mother, right? A mother has a certain love for the child that is in her DNA, right? It's a very strong love for a child. Does the mother have to work on her love for the child?
No.
Huh?
No.
Well, it depends. It depends, right? Well, there is a deep, essential love that a mother or parent has for a child, no matter what. Then what happens? Child grows up, right? Right? And the child challenges, in a sense, that relationship, or the other way around. The parent challenges the relationship, right? There's a challenge in the relationship.
Mhm.
So what happens? The relationship needs to be worked on. The relationship needs to be worked on. The child needs to develop the love and show love for the mother. The mother also needs to make sure that she can navigate the love, that the love is directed towards the son, not just, oh, I just love you, but I love you from far. But it takes work. So that's a lifetime job. But and the more you work on that relationship, the stronger the love will be. The more you express it with gifts or with words, whatever love language you have, right? Then that love will grow. Not guaranteed, but it's work, right? I know everyone's thinking, yeah. But you all know that there's another type of love that is not in the same category. That's the essential love you have for your child, no matter what. Even a child, very rarely, right, that a parent would write off their child. The other way around happens very often. The child will write off the parents, right? But a mother to a child. So similar, Tanya says, is when it comes to our love to Hashem. Right? So there's a love that I need to work on, but then this is a love that's within the end. By the way, in this essential love, I don't have to do much to know that it exists. I know it exists. The problem is, how do I activate it? How to get it activated? Right? Just because I love God, it's deep inside of me, but I don't, life is busy. I don't have time, and So how do I activate that hidden love within us, that inner love within us? So let's go back to the mother analogy. We all know the adrenaline powers of a human being, right? For example, this is a proven concept. The mother sees her child under the car, right? Now that case, a child gets stuck under the car, and the mother sees it, and she literally can take and pick up the car, right? Seen it, prove it, right? Now, a week later, right? You have a flat tire, and you go, oh, I saw this lady picking up the car for her son, right? Let it go, and she can just pick up. She's a super lady, right? Ain't gonna work. Why not?
Because you don't have the adrenaline.
Oh, so what's the adrenaline? The adrenaline is that activation power, like that spark, that inner power that she didn't even know that she can do that, but the moment called it, boom, she did it. So we're going to learn the shorter way is to try to activate this inner love that I have within me without much work. It doesn't take much work for the mother to pick up the car. It is the circumstance that will automatically get her to do it. She doesn't have to go to the gym or she has to run a few feet back. Boom, done, right? Like this. If we can get ourselves into that mode, it's a very extreme mode, right? But I'm not talking that extreme. Meaning that with a very brief understanding of our connection to God, and as we're going to see, the idea is, and that's what he says at the end, this was given as a gift, as a bequest from our matriarchs and patriarchs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we always mention our matriarchs and patriarchs. We're very obsessed over our matriarchs and patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, right? We start our Amidah, right? Baruch atah Hashem, Elokei Abraham, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, the God of Yaakov. They lived 3,000 years ago. What does it have to do with me, right? I mean, yeah, but nice, they were my bubbies, but I don't talk about my bubbies. I talk about my other matriarchs. So, and here's another line in the Torah that's very famous. A Jewish child, the child gets to the age of then they can start to speak. There's a verse of Torah that we teach a child. The first verse that we teach a child, in addition to Shema. You might have heard it. The verse is like this. Torah tziva lanu Moshe marasha kilas Yaakov. You heard it before? Torah tziva lanu. Torah that God commanded us. Marasha. You ever heard the word marasha? Marasha means It's our heritage. The Torah is our heritage. It means that the Torah belongs to every Jew. We inherit the Torah. We inherit this heritage. What's that? Why are we saying that it's inheritance? Because it's not just a gift that God has given us, but when you say something is bequested, we got it. It is you are basically being placed in their shoes of our forefathers. Make this very simple. We have a gift, and that's natural to every Jew that we got from a matriarch. What is that? The love for God. How do we activate it? Let's read over here text 4. So even for the person who has only a limited understanding of God's greatness, I already read it. Sorry, I meant to say text 5. Text 5. And therefore, generally speaking, even the most careless sinners among Israel sacrifice their lives for the sanctity of God's name and suffer harsh torture rather than deny God's unity, even if they are unlearned and ignorant of God's greatness. Their self-sacrifice does not result from any knowledge or contemplation of God, but rather without any reason or rational argument whatsoever. Right. What does that mean? Have you seen that throughout our history we have many Jews who maybe weren't so learned or weren't very righteous. However, they were willing to sacrifice themselves simply because they were Jews. Or let me make a more modern version of this, right? When, God forbid, there is an anti-Semitic attack, right? What happens? What's your reaction? What's your reaction? Huh? It hurts you. It hurts you, right? You take it personal, right? If a Jew is attacked in South Africa, it hurts you personally, right? Why? You don't know them.
It's because they're Jew.
So what? So what? Yeah, because they're Jew, they're part of the family. This is certain inner connection. But also, it reminds you of who you are. It reminds you, if they got attacked, why did they get attacked? Because they're a Jew. I'm also a Jew. But somebody's going to say, really, you're a Jew? But you haven't shown your Jewishness to anybody. You don't go to Shabbos to show. You don't even Kippur to show, right? You don't wear Star David. You don't have a yarmulke. I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew, right? That feeling is that inner love that we have because we have a godly soul. Now, when that feeling is at risk, where somebody's going to come to tell a person, right? Either you renounce your Jewishness publicly, or I will burn you on the stake, right? Like the Marranos, like in the Spanish Inquisition, right? Majority of Jews would rather give up their Jewishness, rather not give up their Jewishness, right? And rather be killed.
They leave town.
Huh?
They left.
Who?
The Jews left. In other words, when it was time for the Inquisition, then they left. No one wanted to give up their lives. They wanted to live, but they didn't want to give up their Jewishness. So
Correct. But many of them didn't even get the options to leave. It was either the cross or the sword, right? And many of them choose the sword. Why is that? Because that's the adrenaline. That's the moment when your connection is at risk. So when your connection is at risk, your connection with God becomes in the spotlight, so to speak, it gets activated. That's what it says. And for that, you don't need to contemplate. There's no knowledge or reason, arguments. It just happens like that. What does it have to do with the Beinoni? What does it all have to do with the Beinoni? So here we're going to introduce the concept of what is a mitzvah. What is a mitzvah? Yeah. You have a question?
Yeah. What is a careless sinner?
what is a careless sinner?
Mhm.
It's just I think he's trying to say that even the lowest of sinners, there's a sinner who feels guilty of what they're doing, right? That it's in a struggle, but you're still falling through. You still have some type of sensitivity to God, but your evil inclination took you over. Careless sinner is somebody who couldn't kill us. But and we've seen that. I think in the slideshow you have it. Not too long ago, there was a Wall Street journalist, Daniel Pearl, right? Who was he was beheaded by ISIS. He was one of the first ones, right? And his last words was, he says, "I'm a Jew." His last words actually on that stage. I think they put it on the slideshow. He said the Shema, and he said, "I'm a Jew, and I'm a." Let me see if I can find it. There we go. Right. My name is Daniel Pearl. I'm a Jewish American. My mother is Jewish. My father is Jewish. I'm Jewish. And his parents, I heard them speak actually. His parents have said that he was a complete assimilated Jew. Was married to a Jewish lady, and he wasn't forced saying it. He was not forced. From all the footage, he wasn't forced to say it. He even said there's a street in Israel that's named after his great grandparents. Right? Why would he choose his last words? Because he was proud. He knew this is his moment. He didn't do it. Not that he was a sinner, God forbid, right? But I did. It's another example. And we have many of such examples through our history. Now, what is the power of a mitzvah? It's 11:23. Unfortunately, I have to stop. But let's do this next week. The power of a mitzvah, which is super interesting and powerful. The power of a mitzvah. You can surely read ahead, and this might be a good introduction, a good preparation for the upcoming holiday Shavuot. It's been a pleasure. What I'm going to do is, while I'm leaving, I'm going to go on my phone on Zoom. I'm actually going to put up a meditation video by Rabbi Wolf on contemplative meditation. 7-minute video. You guys can watch it together, so you still get an hour of learning today. Otherwise, you guys want your money back. What? No, from Australia. Yeah. Yeah, he spoke here several times, and we also. I might come in. If I'm not here, I want to thank everyone for coming. Remember that in 2 weeks from today is Shavuos. There won't be a class. So we still have next week, but in 2 weeks there won't be class on Monday, June 6th, I believe. So we're going to take 1 week off. Those who are in Rivka's class tomorrow morning, there won't be class for Rivka. She's at a funeral for her aunt. But the JLI class is happening tomorrow at 12:15. If you haven't done it, you can still join us tomorrow. It's really we're going to actually talk about some really fascinating Jewish topics. Let's put this video on.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah, I'm going to share this screen now for the PowerPoint. Okay, on Zoom, can you see the YouTube? I hope you can. On Zoom, can you see it? Bella? Let's see.
Yeah, we see something.
You see the video?
Yeah, I think it's starting. Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi, for a great lesson. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thoughts produce feelings. Therefore, even a microsecond of thought in any situation produces an emotion. If we have negative emotions, we can simply displace them by replacing them with a new thought. Not a difficult process, And let me share with you a meditation to try to carry out that particular function. So gently close your eyes and just become aware of the flow of your thoughts. What thoughts are flowing through onto the screen of your consciousness? And as you become aware of the thought, see if you can identify a feeling that arises as a consequence of that thought. I would like you to take yourself back to a moment, to a time when you might have been embarrassed, a situation of personal embarrassment. Try to locate that particular incident, refreshing it in your mind. Note all the points that cause the embarrassment. Become aware of the people who are present. And become acutely aware of your feelings of embarrassment at that time. And now, let's switch that thought. I want you to think back to a moment when you were supremely happy, ecstatic, somewhere in your life where you felt absolute joy. Recall that moment. Where were you? Who was there? Can you recall the voices, the colors, the background sounds? And now consider, where did that image of embarrassment of a few moments ago disappear? The feelings went away because new thoughts were brought into the consciousness of your mind. Let's try that again. Now think back to a time where you hurt yourself physically, maybe injured yourself, sprained an ankle. Take yourself back there and feel the pain. Simulate it. Recognize how you felt. Even complex feelings beyond the pain. Consequences. And now, turn your mind to a birthday party in your honor that you may have experienced as a child, as an adult. What is going on at the party? Who is there? Singing. Maybe a cake. Maybe candles. How do you feel? That same happiness has been recreated. What happened to that feeling of hurt and pain of a few moments ago when you hurt yourself back then? You changed your thoughts, and therefore your feelings changed. Let's learn an important lesson. Moach shalit al halev. The mind determines the outcomes of the emotions. Change your mind, and you change your feelings. When feeling